First and foremost, I would like to say that we are determined to contribute through our mandate and expertise to furthering women's role in the next 5-year framework. And this will lead, as many people have been saying, to the implementation of the SDGs and in particular the ones related to environment. Our mandate comes from the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015-2030, and this is a core part of the Agenda 2030. So what we do is we try to move it forward in coherence with the Paris Agreement, with the SDGs, and with the humanitarian agenda, the agenda for urbanization. As we all know, and many of you have already mentioned it, we need to move these all together. And why is disaster and prevention of disaster risk so important for this agenda? It is because we all know that when disaster strikes, women are the ones who are struck more than male. It is a known fact that more females perish in disasters than men. And this is because of their socioeconomic standing, among other causes. And even if they survive, we also know that when they have to enter shelters or camps, they are vulnerable, and especially the young ones, they are vulnerable to gender-based violence. And we need to make sure that this will not happen. In many cases, women are the ones, when disaster strikes, they are the ones who are caring for the more vulnerable people, such as children, such as elderly. And this is why they sometimes sacrifice their own lives in order to save these people. They are also in charge of their livelihood, like taking care of their livestock, taking care of their small micro allotment. And again, this makes women much more vulnerable when disaster strikes. So what can we do in order to strengthen prevention and reduce disaster risk and not to create new risks? One important thing, and this is what Maimouna mentioned, is to have more disaggregated data. But it is easy to say this, but not easy to achieve this. We all know that for many countries, in particular for developing countries, even just gathering data in terms of who have died in disaster, who have been affected, just those data gathering is so difficult. So asking member states to go further and gather disaggregated data is a big ask. But we all know that if we don't understand actually what's happening on the ground, actually how much women, girls are suffering at disaster is revealed, we cannot make policies that can address them. So we really need to join forces. And my question to all of you and to myself too is, what does it mean to join forces? What can we really do together in order to support countries to gather disaggregated data? This is one thing that I wanted to put on the table. The second thing is that, as I mentioned, we really need to move the agenda in coherence. And this is, of course, not only in order to support women and girls, but everyone. And what does it mean on the ground at the country level to move forward the agenda in coherence? In many times, we are asking member states, and member states themselves agreed to come up with national adaptation plans, nationally determined contributions, national strategies for disaster risk reduction, and they all have to have a very important gender component in it. But how can this be achieved in a way that it doesn't become a burden? This is the second question. And thirdly, I wanted to mention about the whole of society approach of the Sendai framework, which is very important for what we are talking today. So the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, the main responsible actor is the governments, the member states, to implement it. But it is a shared responsibility. And that is why we work with the local governments, we work with the private sector, we work with the civil society, and we work a lot of the community-based groups which are working for the cause of women and girls. And through doing this, we believe that we can really close the gap, address the gaps, obstacles, and interdependencies which are not allowing us to build resilience as quickly as we want to. And I would also like to mention that the disaster risk reduction agenda of the Sendai framework is a people-centered approach. It is about human rights at the end of the day. So this is why we are very much interested in learning more and being part of the For All coalition, and we would like to move the human right aspect of the Sendai framework in relation to the agenda of today. Yesterday I went to Kisumu, which is the fourth largest city in Kenya, where a city manager, equivalent to a mayor, is a very, very powerful lady. And what she told me, I thought was very relevant to what we're doing today. She said as a lady mayor, she can become closer to the community. So what they call the mamas here, the ladies, talk to her more. They tell her what they need to do in terms of prevention, in terms of disaster risk reduction. And she said that she goes out and talks to these people, and they would talk to her and tell her things that they would not tell other, let's say, male members of the city council or the city government. And I think this is very important, because this is actually what women's leadership means at the top, but also connected to the community. And this is what we need to achieve in order to move forward our agenda. But at the end of the day, I think we need to find a world, we need to be in a world where women will not be concerned to talk about their issues, whether it's about disaster risk reduction or whether it's about other things, to men leaders. And also men in the communities should also be able to talk about their issues to women leaders. This is where we aspire to go. And I believe that our discussion today will help us get there. Thank you very much.